Hey guys, welcome on another episode of Hey, I Was in Star Wars. My name is Nilda. I'm the host of the Appetites for Collectibles show. And today we have Dmitriy Karas on from Star Wars. What's going on, Dmitry?
Hey, what's up, Nilda? Thanks for
How
having
are
me.
you? I'm glad that you're
I'm
on
doing good.
finally. Finally, we're doing this.
I know I've been looking forward to it for a while. I know some stuff has come up for us in previous planning, but I'm stoked to be on here finally.
I guess we finally decided that like the weekend was our best time to do this.
Yeah, it's cool.
So you were telling me earlier today before we got on the recording that you were just in stunt school. So how's that been going on for you?
It's just kind of a constant, stunt training throughout the week. It's just like do something one day, do something different another day. So it's not like a school. It's just different classes that I go to from time to time that cover different like stunt related activities. So
So it teaches you more like techniques and stuff.
yeah, like today was kind of a fight choreography situation, and I go to stuff that's like movement based, like either gymnastics or parkour. Sometimes like martial arts stuff. Like I don't train specifically like daily in martial arts anymore. There's tons of other like movement. I guess like practices that
Okay.
fit for stunts, and they're all very helpful.
All right. So leading into that, how did you get into stunt work? Where did you originally grow up and what made you one day just like wake up? Because I know I asked this to Dickie. What made you one day just wake up and say, like, hey, I want to be a stuntman?
Yeah. Um, I kind of went through a weird like back and forth a little bit with the film industry. When so my background is in martial arts, as I said, and like I was born in Ukraine and I moved to California when I was 5 years old. So that that wasn't even a thought. Like I didn't know what the film industry was for the longest time. Even living in California and in Hollywood, I didn't know anything about it. It just kind of was like not understood at all as a kid. Um, and then I started training in martial arts and got really active in it. And towards the time I was like in high school, I thought this was something that I wanted to do. And like seeing, I was a movie buff when I was a kid, and I watched I watched martial arts movies and kung fu movies all the time, and I was a huge fan of Jackie Chan, and um, I kind of knew his background in the film industry and like him doing all of his own stunts and um, being like the guy that was in charge of the stunt team in like the majority of his movies, and um, so I started wanting to go after the stunt world like through high school and out of college, but I had no idea how to go about getting into the film industry. Like I didn't know about being an extra. I didn't know about anything about SAG, SAG-AFTRA.
Hmm.
I had no idea. And the internet was still like I was the internet was around by then, but it didn't have like the most easy access in like the late '90s and like early 2000s. It was still kind of like things were just kind of getting out,
Hmm.
and so I didn't know how to go about it. So eventually, I got I finished high school, had to get a job, started going into college, and then like time like got more and more scarce, and just because I didn't know what to do to get into it, I just kind of started like it was more of like a I don't know like it was more of a dream, I guess.
Okay.
And then and slowly it just got further and further away from my mind as things got more and more hectic in my life and more responsibilities, and life happens. And um and then uh 9 years ago, actually, speaking of Dickie, I meet his daughter. Well, I'm pretty much met him and her on the same day. And like we get together and I find out about her history, and she wasn't doing stunts yet, but because she was in college, but like her connection to Dickie and his stunt work and everything, and within a very short time, they had like his wife, Amy, a little bit. They kind of restarted that like fire to go after stunts. Kind of just reminded me why I wanted to do it in the first place.
So you kind of needed like that little push.
Well, I knew what to do by then. I had a lot more resources available, and so it wasn't really. They kind of just like reminded me why, and then I went to do all the figuring of like how to go about it. So like then I started doing background acting and getting into the union, and like it was just pretty standard practice. But once I knew about it, it was like, oh yeah, this is like super easy process of getting things going, and making it happen. Not easy, but like standardized and pretty simple, straightforward process. But until then, I had no idea, and it was just like, I didn't know anybody that I could like reach out to get any kind of information about that. And then once I met, Dickie and his wife and daughter, that just became. He had obviously a lot of information from his experience, which was amazing, and then looking stuff up online, figuring it out, and making it happen.
That sounds awesome. So yeah, basically, I don't know, it kind of sounds similar to like kind of the experience that I have. So it's like I always wanted to do somewhat in like the radio personality industry. I had a podcast years ago with a family member of mine, and we were, slowly trying to get our rhythm, but it was just like we didn't have that fire to fuel us. And then eventually, I started hanging out with more people from the Star Wars community, and then just like doing more interviews and stuff like that. And finally, like I was able to be like, you know what, I'm going to try this on my own. And, I know what you feel like, like it ignited something in me, and I just kept going and going. And sometimes I feel like you need something like that to happen, because then it like motivates you and it drives you to like do much better, or, you want to keep, following that path that you want to go to.
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting when you start to actually like figure stuff out and learn more about it. And for me at least, like I definitely enjoy learning new things, and there's a lot to this world that I had no idea existed. And you look at it as a fan, as people watching this, and just everybody has their thing. You see it from the outside. You don't know all the like the inner workings, behind making a movie, behind making a TV show, and there's so much that goes into it that I had no idea back then, that I do now, and it was really cool. It was very eye opening. There's just a lot. So
that's good. Now, how old were you when you first saw Star Wars?
Oh man, I honestly don't know for sure. I think I saw it. So I have an older brother. He's like 6.5 years older, or whatever, 6 years older. And as a kid, we generally watched whatever he wanted to watch. So when we just moved here to the States, it was back in 1993, and I saw a lot of movies that I don't remember now. I remember seeing it, but I just don't remember any details about it. So I'm pretty sure, obviously I've seen Star Wars since multiple times, and the majority of it I watched multiple times. But the original trilogy, I know I've seen several times through the years. But the first time I watched it was probably just watching it with him and having like no memory of it, other than having the general memory of having seen the movie, but like no recollection of what happened. And I've actually realized recently people ask me like if I was a Star Wars fan as a kid and if it's been a long thing for me or if I just recently became a fan. Like I know I watched it before and I wasn't really a fan of Star Wars growing up and didn't really understand it very much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I understood the story and everything, but I didn't understand like what the big deal about Star Wars was until I got a little older, maybe like or like early teens, something like that. And I've only recently realized that I think it's partially because I had nobody in my life that was a fan of Star Wars. So I've since uh, starting to do conventions and talking to fans personally and getting their take on Star Wars. And people share with me like their excitement about Star Wars and their how much of a fan they are and just their stories. And I hear constantly, when I was a kid, my uncle took me to watch Star Wars, or my dad took me and like came to school and took me out of school to get me to watch Star Wars. And like all these like fun stories of like bonding with somebody about Star Wars and being like kind of having that exposure to it, and feeding off of that excitement from the person who's introducing you to it. And I didn't really have anybody who was like, hey, let's go see this. Like none of my friends really cared about it. No, I didn't have any family because everybody was a bunch of foreigners in the late 90s that didn't know anything about it and didn't care.
Yeah.
And so I think my older brother was the closest to it because I know he's kind of a fan of Star Wars, but growing up, he and I did not get along at all. So
Sounds like me and my brother.
it was a rough time for us, and like he and I are like best friends now. We hang out all the time. Like we're super close, which is fantastic. And then once I started thinking about the film industry, I understood what Star Wars and what George Lucas was able to do with the extremely limited resources that he had at the very beginning of it, and how it just completely exploded and changed the entire industry. So I had a profound appreciation for like the entire series as like what it actually did for the film industry, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to actually like enjoy the movies on a more superficial level, I guess. So it was kind of backwards, like for me. Like I had the deeper appreciation for it, for just what it was, and not so much as a movie itself. For a really long time, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. So for me, like I'm one of those typical people that you meet at the cons. Like when I was a kid,
You're
my
not a typical person I meet at the cons.
I'm fun though. We've had fun. No, that is true. I'm not one of the typical people you meet at the cons. But no, like, I have the same story. When I was a kid, English wasn't my first language. And my mother got us to watch Star Wars at, I was 7 at the time. And, I didn't understand what was going on. There was subtitles, but I didn't understand it. And, my mom went ahead and got it on VHS, but in Spanish. And I ended up loving it. And I told her, like, I want to start learning how to speak English. So, we all went to school. And I was one of those kids, I was in ESOL class and learning how to speak English. And then just learning to watch it again in English, I grew more appreciation for the film. And it actually like brought my mother and I very close together. And I blame her and appreciate her for the love of Star Wars because then she created a little monster in me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always nice to meet fellow Star Wars fans, and that's always their first line that they always say is, when I was a kid, or my brother, my sister, my dad, or somebody in their family got them into it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of nice, like meeting someone that says, I didn't watch it as a kid, but I got into it because of this. My boyfriend's the same way. My boyfriend has seen Star Wars before, but he is now more into it because, we've been dating. So like anytime Star Wars is on and he's home, he'll send me a picture of like the TV screen and he'll be like, "Hey, it's on."
Yeah.
Or, if he finds like funny Star Wars memes, he'll send them to me, but it's not like that's not his thing, which is kind of cool because it kind of balances us together. So, because if it was two Star Wars fans together, I feel like it would be kind of dangerous.
Dangerous to that level.
Yeah. I've seen couples who are like they're both Star Wars fans and it's pretty nuts. Like they're all outstaging each other and buying like collections and stuff like that. And
I've definitely seen it.
yeah, I like to buy stuff and I couldn't imagine if, like Craig was buying the same amount of stuff as me. We would be living in a house full of stuff.
Hey, that's what people do. I know a lot of people. I know a few people personally now who that's just what their paycheck goes to.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Star Wars, but it's just like it's like life stuff, and then like necessities, and then collectibles, and like that's it. And that's like they don't you don't have kids, and they're just like that's all their money goes to, and they're still like they're still living paycheck to paycheck because they spend so much on on fun stuff, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I downsized on a lot of that stuff because, like one day I woke up and I was just like, holy crap, I live in a house full of stuff. So I'm like, we don't have children. And I said to myself, like if the day ever happens where I pass, where's all my stuff going to go? I can just be morbid and have it all, cremated with me and I could be just one massive toy. But I think that would be
Have it
hard
compacted
and like compacted and put it in like one little box. It'd be pretty.
That's funny. I joke about this all the time with with my girlfriend. That like that's kind of all life is just like amassing stuff and then running out of space, like running out of storage space, and then getting a bigger storage space. And like that's all your house is just a big storage unit for your crap. And then you run out of space, so you need a bigger space. Then you have more room to buy more crap.
Yeah.
And eventually, you just keep repeating the pattern over and over until you die.
Yeah, one of my really good friends, Sean, he had like a small toy collection area, and I guess him and his wife sold their house, and they just got a new house. And he messaged me, and he was like, "Dude," he was like, "my new toy room is massive." Yeah, he was like, "I'm gonna buy more stuff." I was like, "Don't do it." I was like, because then it's gonna it's gonna pass that room, and you're gonna want to add more stuff. And he was like, "No," he's like, "I'll tone it down." I was like, "Yeah, I don't see that out."
No, you won't. No, you won't. I don't believe you for a second.
It'll start branching out to your living room and then your bathroom.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man, that's the real meaning of life. For a lot of people, it is.
Yeah.
As I say, just my connection to the like fandoms now. Again, with my experience with conventions and stuff. I'm not a collector of things, and I've never had a collection of anything really. And since having all my experience on Star Wars, and getting to do this stuff, and I have like people bring me either like art pieces that they've made, like something of my characters, and they've given me gifts and stuff like that. And I've always wanted to keep that as a like in its own collection, whether it's like gifts from people or now like Amy suggested that I started a collection of characters that I've been on screen, and so now I actually have like an entire little Star Wars collection of my own, and that I would never have had before. And now it's I'm going through the same situation. Like it's in my office, and I had to get a shelf specifically for it. And I was like, oh, this little shelf is plenty. It's not. It's not. And now I'm like, well, what do I do with this stuff? Like now it's like overflowing the shelf, and like it's growing throughout all like other parts of the office, and now I'm like having it spread out to other things. Like I'm putting up shelves throughout the room, like actually like wall mounted shelving, so I can display other things. So it's not all like clustered in one, on one shelf. And it's exactly that situation. I was like, I didn't want a collection to begin with, and now I'm like growing it in my entire office, and it's like spreading throughout, and I'm just trying to keep it from oozing out into the rest of the house.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm telling you now. I'm giving you fair warning. Do not go down this path. Go to the light.
Hey, I try. I'm generally not the one who's like bringing this stuff home. Well, I'm the one bringing it home, but I'm not going out to buy it. It's like, I appreciate and love all the gifts, and I will continue to put them in the collection. But yeah, that definitely gets it to grow. Every piece that I bring home goes into that collection, and just like expands it further and further. So it's been fun. I've definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and because I don't have that like collector mentality. Um, Honestly, when I got into doing conventions, I could not for the life of me understand. I mean, it's still definitely surreal when people come up to me and ask me for my autograph. I just never in a million years would have guessed that something like that would happen. And it's still like it just confuses me, like it blows my mind that like that is what it is. And
Yeah.
but it's cool. I love it. I appreciate it so much. I'm extremely grateful. But yeah, I don't have that collector mentality. So now creating this collection from scratch, at a few people's suggestion, mainly Amy, as I said, has been interesting to figure out.
That's too funny. So you're speaking about Star Wars and like your characters that you have played. Um, my friend, I have to say this. You have a list of characters that you have played. I thought what is it? A friend of mine named D as well. I thought Details had a list. You have a list of characters you have played.
Yeah, I
Little
love D.
I love D. He's such a great guy.
He
He
was
literally
dope. I'm really glad I got to meet him when he was out here in LA.
I know. I told him the next time he's back in the States, like I'll drop everything that I'm doing to come meet him. Like me and him were on the like before the chat, we were on for like an hour, and then we did an hour of recording because we were just back and forth, just bantering. And then we were on for another hour afterwards. We just
Yeah,
like reminiscing and laughing about a lot of stuff. And he was such a sweetheart, and we still talk to this day.
he is. It was great. Yeah, I randomly. I mean, I saw him at an event in LA briefly, and I had a kind of a story to talk to him about, and that has to do with one of with two of my characters, and because it overlaps with characters that he's done, and he and like a coworker of his, and so I told him the story, and he was just like, just the whole time listening to it, and then just like the back and forth that we had was so funny, very very unexpected. Because I mean, I figured everyone's friendly on that side, but we just completely got lost in a conversation that before we knew it, it was like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
like a solid half hour.
But yeah, he said nothing but nice things about everybody that he's ever met in the Star Wars industry. And it's just, it's really nice to meet people like that because they're very humbled and just enjoy, the interaction that they have with coworkers or just fans alone. So yeah, it was nice talking to him for like 3 hours. But yeah, my friend, you have played a Tusken Raider, a Stormtrooper, a Shore Trooper, a Pike Syndicate, a Night Trooper, and a Red Mimbanese character. Like, how? How are you able to do all this?
I've done another like done probably close to like, I don't know, 10 to 12 more than that even. Those are like characters that I might have probably on IMDb, but there's a lot of other characters that I've played that either don't. Well, and none of this is, the majority of these characters aren't credited in the shows. Just like in the original movies, there were so many characters and performers that were uncredited that now people know that's what they did in Star Wars. But that's just the way that Disney works. for a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. But yeah, I've played close to like 20 different characters, and it's been pretty amazing. I started out as a stormtrooper, thinking I was coming to work as just a soldier because of all the secrecy that Disney employs about
Mm-hmm.
all their movies. Um, I had no idea that it was Star Wars. I had no idea that I was going to be a stormtrooper. And with my appearance, I when I was still getting into the film industry and doing background work, I did a lot of military stuff. I did a lot of like police, SWAT, firefighters, like all those first responder characters. And so when I got the job originally, I thought I was just coming in to be a soldier, put on some BDUs and do whatever, whatever soldiers do.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day that I showed up, expecting to probably like leave with like a high and tight, if it was like a Marine or something like that, and then I walk into the room where they're doing the costume fittings, and there's just boxes and boxes of white armor all over the place, and I was like, "What?
Okay.
I know what that armor is. I know what that armor is. That's wild." And yeah, it was an amazing surprise. I was booked for only like maybe a week or so, and it was back in season one of the Mandalorian, in episode 7 and 8, where they have the large group of stormtroopers outside of the cantina with Moff Gideon,
Yeah.
and so they had the 501st members come in for the first 3 days of that shoot to like fill out the numbers because they needed that huge group standing outside. So those were all human bodies that were outside of that, in those shots, and it ended up being a 3 week, like a 3.5 week shoot, and um, the 501st members were only there for the first couple of days, and then as first they do the really wide shot that has everybody, and then they start getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and so we only need a group of a few people, and I was fortunate enough to get to come back on like every day that shoot lasted, and for whatever reason, whether it was like scheduling issues for other people and they weren't available, and I just happened to be available that entire time, but that's the way it worked out, and I got called back for all of those days, which was great at the time, and then I thought it was over, and I was like, okay, cool, had my time, I got to be on Star Wars, cool, 2 thumbs up, and then at the very end of the season, a lot of the time they do either like pickup shots or reshoots after everything is finished, and just like little inserts and stuff that was missed or stuff that didn't come out quite right. So they need they need to reshoot it, and I got called in as a group of 6 stormtroopers, and it was myself who just came in back then at episode 7, and then 5 other guys that were there for like the entire season 1 for like a lot longer, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I did something right, made a good impression
Mm-hmm.
in those three weeks that I was there, to get called back as one of 6 people. And again, I don't know, maybe it's scheduling issues that somebody else wasn't available, whatever, but I didn't care. And that was it. And that was just a couple hours of work on that last day after filming was done, and that was the wrap of season 1. And then before season 2 even came out, I was getting emails from production saying, "Hey, we want to bring you back as would you like to come join us as a different character?" Which turned out to be the Tusken Raiders for episode 1 of season 2, and that one episode took the entire season to film. So while episode 1 was filming at on one unit throughout the entire season, episodes 2 through 8 were being filmed simultaneously by another unit, either like on stage, and then we would bounce back and forth in different locations and whatever.
Oh, wow.
So during season 2, I was constantly there as a stormtrooper because I was one of the few that got brought back from season 1, because the sizes got narrowed down between season 1 and season 2 considerably. So a lot of people, unfortunately, when they came to fit for season 2, because they were stormtroopers in season 1, they were no longer within that narrow range of sizes that they wanted for stormtroopers, and so a lot of people unfortunately got told, like, hey, we can't, we're not gonna be able to have you back, unfortunately, for season 2. But I was one of the people who came back as a trooper, and then because of doing the Tusken Raiders, I was there pretty much all season. And then while I was there doing those 2 characters, on one of the days that I was a trooper, Legacy FX, who back then handled a lot of the costume, or the masked characters, they came to me and said, "Hey, can you come to our office and try on some of our masks, because we can't find people that fit." And I don't know what it is, but I have a pretty narrow head, and whoever these masks were molded for in the UK was just my shape, because I ended up fitting like all of their masks. And so I left that day as a trooper from their office, saying like, "Hey, you're going to hear from us a lot more, because you happen to fit all these character masks." And that started my opportunity to play a lot of the alien creatures on Star Wars. And I think in season 2 I probably did like 4 or 5, in addition to being a stormtrooper. I like Tusken Raider and being one of those characters, and then it just kept expanding. I've done I've done a few Mimbins now. There's like Niktos, Trandoshans that I've played, the Pikes, as you said.
That has to be one of my favorite helmets.
Which one?
The Pikes.
The Pikes?
Yeah.
The Pike was fun.
Yeah, because it's like, it's like that goldish color. It looks like they're friendly, but they're not. But they also look like their character belongs in the movie The Fifth Element. Because of,
yeah, I see that.
So it's like very sci-fi-ish. And I don't know, just their characters alone and like what they stood for, it was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, the Pikes are cool. There's a lot of jokes about the Pikes. But yeah, the Pikes are cool. But I think my favorites have been some of the characters that don't even have races. Honestly, I've gotten to play some very interesting characters. Like in season 3, there was a guy that just went by Pointy Chin, and because he has a really pointy chin, and he looks really cool. He looks like a bounty hunter. But yeah, he has no actual like race. And there was a character, actually, I think that I think it might have actually been D who played him in Solo. He did Regineer Teed.
Yes.
And he doesn't have a character. So if you look him up on Wikipedia, it just says like Regineer Teed species, because he doesn't have an actual like race. Mm-hmm. Like his character has some backstory, but there's not multiple characters of that guy.
Yeah, you don't know who the heck he is.
Yeah, so I got to wear D's mask on The Mandalorian a couple of times as Regineer Teed, but it wasn't Regineer Teed. It was just like we're using this creature in a different capacity. And actually, the conversation that I had with him when we met was about another character from Solo. His name is Waydurk, and I got to there's a deleted scene that turned out to be in the Disney gallery for season 2, where I got to be that character, but it was removed from the show. But it ended up there was a snippet in the costumes section of the Disney gallery where 2 costumers are just adjusting my stuff, while I was wearing the Waydurk costume, and it's still his like Cloud Rider outfit head to toe, and that's the red Mimbin that I got to play, and that was another really cool character, because it's like, you look like this badass bounty hunter, but then now, like, despite who you are, you're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
It's a little weird to play characters like that, because obviously we get specific directions on what they want for the scene, and they could be completely like contradictory who you like who your character is or who you think your character is.
Which was one of your favorite characters that you played?
Um, I wish I got more time with the Red Mimbin. I think both Mimbins actually. I got to play a really cool one in season 3 of Mando.
Mhm.
That was it was also a Mimbin character, but he's like he went by Marble Mimbin because his face is very like it's like modeled, kind of not one color. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but kind of marble color. Um, anyway, he's the character that they want me to play. First of all, he was dressed like sleazeball straight out of the '70s, like a just like a drug dealer, lowlife, but snazzy, you know,
Mhm.
wearing like bell bottoms, a like a dark tie dye long sleeve turtleneck with like a snug like well fitting leather jacket and tight leather gloves. Like he's just like he looks pretty cool for that time period. Like, but like the '70s reality era doesn't really connect that well to Star Wars.
Yeah.
So like it was such a fun character to get to play, just being in that costume and just being given the instructions of like, you know, who they wanted to see that character be, which is exactly what it was. Like he's just a sleazeball. I got to be in the subway like bothering people, bothering like the upper crust in Coruscant, you know, and getting to getting to interact with Omid and Katie was cool in the scene that we did. And I mean, I had people coming up to me. First of all, because of everything that I was wearing and what they wanted me to do, like I was strutting around everywhere, like I had the song "Staying Alive" just going on repeat in my head, and but they wanted me to play it up.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. But I'm serious. They wanted me to play it up, to be this just like full of himself guy and just like really like strutting around, like too cool for school, and that's what I did, and it was great. I had people coming up to me that I would never, like that just doesn't happen. I had like you know, assistant directors. I had a producer come up and say like, hey, we really like how what we're seeing. Just as an aside, like not as like a critique or like a hey, you're doing good, because that just doesn't happen. You're not getting instructions from those people, but just like between takes, like hey man, it's so fun watching this play out because it was just fun and enjoyable. And yeah, that was a character that was really fun. I wish I had more time with him. And like the scene that happens on the subway is just me, kind of like growling at Dr. Pershing and uh, spacing on Katie's name.
oh, I know you're talking about the soldier.
Aaliyah, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it Aaliyah?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So they're walking on the subway, and then I just like walk past them and growl at them. And what's funny is nobody told them that was happening on the first take. So they're just walking. They're walking in this direction, and camera is pulling them back, and then I had to slip in between camera and them really tight and kind of get into Omid's face. Nobody told them that was happening, so they got really genuine like startled reactions, and like everyone started laughing, and you know, of course, like the take is scrapped. Um, and then I'm like, I realized their reaction and like ran over, and I'm still wearing this mask, and it's the same guy that like kind of freaked him out to begin with. So it was a lot of goofy stuff that happened as that, and it would have definitely been great to have a little more time with a character like that.
That's funny. Yeah, I love seeing like, I started this channel because I love hearing like all the little little side stories that go on in filming, like the little things that sometimes don't end up on, the shows. And I think it's
Hmm.
just funny, like little stories like that. Like, you're always going to remember that. And probably, if these guys hear the same story as well, they'll laugh at it because they'll remember that they didn't know that you growled in their face and that they weren't aware of it. And it's just
Yeah.
like, they probably will think it's freaking funny. I will say this. So online, I did see this funny, iconic photo that you're in. And I have to ask you about this because all of you guys in the background just have this like big smile on your faces. And you guys just look so happy to be there. I'll show it to you on my phone, but I'll pull it up better on
Hmm.
online. But like this photo with you and all the storm and the night troopers, like
Yeah.
how excited were you guys being in this little photo?
I mean, I was stoked. It was great. That was me and the rest of the stunt guys on Ahsoka that day, um, filming with him on, who's awesome. It
Yeah.
was really fun interacting with him. He's a great guy. Um, those were fun days. Like that was that whole period of time for me was pretty amazing. Um, my opportunity to get on to Ahsoka as a stunt performer, so in much higher capacity, and that was amazing. I was working toward that for a lot of years prior to Ahsoka filming. Um, so that was a pretty sizable accomplishment for me to begin with. It happened to land on my birthday, my first day, first day doing stunts on Ahsoka. It happened to land on my birthday, which was pretty rad. Um, that was definitely a fun birthday gift, and yeah, it was the stunt guys are dope. Iman was great, and who obviously took that picture, and uh, yeah, it was a killer time. I love the time that I got to spend on Ahsoka doing stunts, and just all of those days were a blast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
so
hopefully we can see you come back on season 2. I won't ask.
I have no information about that whatsoever yet. So I don't even have anything that I can't share with you.
Okay.
But I hope so too.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll tell you on your birthday or something. Like
Maybe,
this video will get out and they'll be like, you know what? We'll surprise him on his birthday.
maybe.
But yeah, it sounds very accomplishing, a lot of stuff that you've done in Star Wars. And it's awesome that that has been the platform that has been able to give your career a takeoff. And I know a lot of people that I've spoken to, they've always genuinely have stated that, they're very honored and, they are very happy with everything that Star Wars has, brought to their life. So it's really nice to hear some of these stories that you're able to tell me. And like, even us hanging out when we met at Rebel Scum, just being around everyone from the Star Wars community, it's so much fun. Like everybody is just genuinely the nicest group of people to speak to. And like I said to you before, when we got started recording, most of these times when I go to these conventions, I got a lot of people that ask me, like, how come you're not recording so much, like when you're hanging out? And it's because I genuinely just love sitting here and just talking and like hearing stories and having banters back and forth and, learning about each other. And it's just overall really nice community to be a part of.
Yeah, and you want to just experience it. Like I wouldn't want to. I'm not in your position doing the podcast, obviously, but I would want to just have that experience to be the experience. Like I want to be in that moment and not focusing on being a host of a show.
Yeah.
I mean, at Rebel Scum, that's more or less all I did was just like hang out and talk to all. We had so many guests there that any opportunity that I had that I didn't have like convention attendees talking to me, I was also running around talking to other people because like I haven't met these people before. We didn't work together. Sure, there was a large portion of the event was people that I already knew personally, and we either worked together on Star Wars or we worked together on something else, or we just knew each other outside of the film industry, whatever. But there were so many people, close to 50 people there, that I hadn't met before. So it was really cool getting to talk to them. And, you mentioned Amy and Michonne, like such sweethearts. I got to meet them at Rebel Scum, and like I of course I knew I knew who they were before, but then getting to meet in person and getting to know them and like having those connections. So like that was amazing. So I wouldn't want to be distracting myself with other, like, focusing on recording and then like what we're talking about and all that stuff. I just want to be able to have like kind of unfiltered conversations and actually getting to know this person on a more personal level than trying to like have some sort of like coordinated, structured thing of topics to talk about and whatever. Like that just would take me completely out of the moment, and then it doesn't feel quite as real. If you're not that something like this isn't. Obviously, we're talking the same way as what I'm describing. But then it just like a small part of me would probably be like thinking about other things and worrying about how the video is turning out, and like you see what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that was one of my things. I will say, like how you were saying that you were like bouncing back and forth. I want to say that was probably one of my favorite things, to sit in the middle of that showroom the last day that we were all there, and just watching like every guest hopping from table to table to go meet their, somebody that they were a fan of. Like, it was nice watching Susanna with this big ass poster walking around and is like,
oh, I know.
And
I know.
And she came up to me a couple times and she was like, was this person on this? And I was like, yes. I was like, go up to them now and get it signed. But yeah, it was, like I said, it was just nice. Like, the fans were there to meet the people that they were fans of, but it was also nice. Like, the guests were fans of other people and they wanted to meet them. Like, when Brendan Wayne was leaving, I love the fact that like everybody was clapping and saying goodbye to him, and like people were honored to meet him because, it's Brendan Wayne. And the same thing with Lateef. And, like I said, it was just cool just sitting there. And I remember I was talking to my friend Gabe, and we were in the middle of the showroom, and I looked at him and I was like, dude, I go, it's funny. We're the fans, but they're the fans. I was like, they're jumping from table to table to get signatures from people that they're fans of.
Right.
But yeah, speaking of convention life, how has that been going for you? If you want to give me like a short synopsis of it.
Cons have been great. This year especially has been pretty incredible for me. The first half of the year was really good. I felt like I was going out of town like every other weekend to different events, and yeah, things were going really well. I was expecting a small break after Florida SuperCon, which I think was the last time we saw each other.
Yeah,
I think that was right after. Yeah, that was right after Rebel Scum, and so I was expecting a couple-week break, and then a few other things would start back up, and then I unfortunately did have several cancellations because they happen to be through the same people, and so I've had just a couple of things here and there. I have an event that I'm pretty excited for happening in a couple of weeks in Illinois, Fan Fusion.
Okay.
So that's cool. Got to go to LA Comic Con for the first time, a month ago. That was rad. And that was, that's obviously 30 minutes away from me, but I'd never been before, and getting to go through some friends of mine from Arizona was really cool. That was a lot of fun. Crazy event. Those big events still like blow my mind. There's so much stuff going on, and so many people, so many vendors. It's still pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
And just like the size and scope of these events is insane. And but it's fun. It's definitely fun. It's insane to me that I get to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
And having done it already for 3 years now, it's still surreal. Like I said earlier, it's the fact that I get Like I get messages online from out of the country, or from a different continent, saying, "Hey, I'd like to get your autograph. Can we figure work that out?" And I'm like, what, why, how? Like I just like don't have the words
I'm telling
because
you,
it's
the
still it's so surreal.
the overseas fans are like, I have a friend of mine who we're friends via Instagram, and he lives in Poland. And he's always constantly sending me plaques from
Mhm.
Poland. He'll pay for the shipping, he pays for the autograph. I send him the website. I tell him to put everything under my name so I can grab it. Um, and I've been getting him plaques for like the past couple months, and I send them back to him, and then he gets so excited when it arrives like 10, 12 days later. But it's
Yeah,
like, the overseas fans, they really enjoy that. And they don't get a lot of conventions overseas, so like when they have the opportunity of being able to, it's like, like a kid at a candy store given endless opportunities to get whatever they want.
right. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if they're. I guess they're not as frequent over there.
Yeah.
Because I hear about a lot of them happening. I mean, like obviously my connection with Dickie, he goes to travel all the time to different countries to do cons and stuff. But yeah, I guess they're just more spread out in both geography and time compared to here. You have a convention happening like literally every weekend, and usually there's around the entire country. There's like 5, 6 big ones, and then a bunch of tiny ones happening every weekend, pretty much. Um, so yeah, we're definitely spoiled over here with cons and different
Yeah, we
events,
are.
like collectibles events compared to other parts of the world. I know I went to a con in Panama, and they don't have anything like that. They have like their two big events uh, in the year, and then just like little meets that people set up, kind of like a little get together, like a toy swap or something like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, it kind of makes you. It definitely makes me think about how like, well, I mean, a little spoiled, honestly. But like, in a good way. It's obviously this is fun stuff. So like you have opportunities to do it. This isn't anything that like um you should like everyone's proud of their fandom. So if you want to go and go to a convention every weekend, more power to you. If you have
Yeah.
the capacity to do so, hell yeah, go for it. Go enjoy yourself. Like don't yeah, I don't think anyone should feel bad about it by any means. So
Now, my last question, because I always love to ask this to everybody, because it's amazing to hear all the different perspectives that people can give.
sorry, I
Um,
have my crazy cats.
it's okay. I've had cats before. They have their own little mind.
I know.
I call them little terrorists because they will sometimes be super sweet and then they're super evil, and you don't know what side you're gonna get out of them.
Yeah, oh, I have two sweethearts, but they've been roughhousing with each other like throughout the entire time we've been recording. I don't know if you've seen the curtain behind
Yeah,
me
I saw the curtains behind
shifting
you.
around constantly. They've just been scrapping back there.
Somebody, if you had to give a piece of advice to anybody that wanted to get into the line that you're in now, what would you say to them?
You mean like to get into stunts or
To get into basically the industry that you're in right now.
um I think the film industry in general, whether you want to be an actor or a stunt performer, or if you want to be somebody behind the camera, like a whatever director, producer, um, or if you have like technical skill, if you want to do like sound engineering, like lights, if you want to drive, like all of those things right now, with the film industry is kind of in a weird place. Um, if that's something that you want to do, I guess don't let yourself get like dissuaded. Like if you're making a decision right now, it might not be the best time to try to get into it. Or if you can start, but you're gonna have it's gonna be an uphill climb.
Yeah.
And like don't get dissuaded, don't get discouraged by it. If that's something you really want to do, continue going after it. And you're gonna have to persevere through some downs. And the film industry, I think, in general, we kind of get like gig work is, it can have its tough moments of like you're not working nearly as often as you like, or maybe not as often as you were in the past, um, and you have to keep pushing through those times. Um, if that's something that you're passionate about and you really want to do, and then you have to like stick it out and get through those moments. Some people talk about it. I mean, I think a lot of people in the film industry mention it and talk about it like that's just, you don't even think about it as rejection anymore once you get comfortable with it, because you can't let yourself think like, oh well, they don't want me for a role. For like if you're auditioning and then you don't get selected, it's not a personal thing. It's not like we don't want you. It's just we are looking for something specific, and we're looking over dozens, if not hundreds, of auditions for the same role. So it's not a personal thing, and once you like come to terms with that, it's not a personal rejection, then things get a lot easier. And I know a lot of people have issues with rejection and stuff like that. So those moments of like when you don't get selected for a role could be tough, and but they're just kind of like bumps in the road, and they're just a part of the process.
That's good. Like I said, I always like asking, I like getting everybody's different perspective on what would give motivation to somebody if they wanted to get into specific, industries that they, look up to. So I appreciate that, you saying that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff that people recommend. There's just tons of recommendations that I can make. But there like a lot of people talk about like the positive stuff, and I don't think as much light gets put onto some of the more difficult parts of the industry. So just kind of as something to be aware of, that it's not like all glitz and glamour that we see, especially for people who are fans of stuff. Like you might see just the industry from the outside. There's a lot more to it. As we started this conversation with me finding that stuff out, we're like, I didn't have knowledge of a lot of this stuff until getting into the industry and just kind of seeing the behind the scenes and the kind of the inner workings of the making of a project. And it's not always that like glamorous, kind of the facade that the industry has. So yeah, just kind of putting a spotlight a little bit on that, just so people know what they're getting into. But again, if you're passionate about it, go after it. Don't let that stop you.
That's good. Well, if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, what is the best way to get a hold of you? On Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram's the best way to get in touch with me. I'm at I_D Karas, so Dmitriy Karas. Yeah, I'm online all the time. My messages do get kind of scattered quite a bit because of different people contacting me. So I apologize in advance if it takes me a while to respond to you. But I do try to get back to all the messages from fans and just anybody reaching out to me. So yeah.
Well, Dmitriy, I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on. It's been fun. We said
Dude,
half
thank
an
you so much
hour.
for having me.
We said half an hour, and it literally went for an hour. See what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
you start
No, I
talking
know.
to people, you lose sidetrack.
I know it. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we could work this out and actually make it happen. And I'm glad we got to take time instead of being like rushed and having to like cram it into a time slot where somebody had to do something else. So I'm glad that we're both free today and it worked out so we can just chill and have a good talk.
Yeah. Well, guys, the man said it himself. You can contact him on Instagram, but just be patient. He will write you back. Ask him any questions that you guys want to. I know, they'll be making announcements if he's ever doing any conventions. Definitely hang out with him. He's a lot of fun. But I just appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Appetite for Collectibles. And like how I always end this segment, may the force be with you.
That's right.